And I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so I can take some attendance. No, I did not take attendance on Friday, so everybody got a freebie that one. So you guys are lucky because I think we didn't have very many people on Friday. All right. So hold on 1 minute while we do that. Everybody for this lesson needs a notebook paper. Take your one notebook paper. Need that. Or your piece of paper. While I take attendance, you can cut out parts of it. So we need, first you want to kind of maybe draw on it. So you need to draw 5 rows. Let's do turn it horizontally, kind of sideways like this. And then you want to draw 5 rows on it and cut those out. So I'm going to draw on, oops, I'm going to use black for this. So you can draw, like, use most of your paper or all of it if you want to. Cutting out 5 strips. I got holes in mine, so I don't want holes in it. If you have holes, if you don't have holes in yours, you can use the whole thing. Cut out 5 rows here. Okay. So I drew my rectangle with 5 long rows. Does everybody see that okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make something like what we saw last class that was shared with fractions. I forgot who shared it. It was Megan or Lindsay or somebody. So we're going to work on those today. So 5 rows like that, you want to cut them out. The top row you want to label with a 1. Whoops. 1, 1. Okay.
Do you want it to be
6 rows.
Do you want it to be a square or a rectangle? Does it matter?
So long rectangle, you need it long. You need these. So make 6. I forgot about the 1. Okay. So make 6 of them. You want them long as you can get. So that'll be easy, make it easiest. So put the top row as 1 and then do 5 more under it. Okay. You want to cut out those strips. This is going to be your fraction kit. Okay. So we'll use it for algorithms and things, for adding and subtracting and multiplying, dividing fractions. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so took attendance there. As we cut out these strips, we want to look for patterns when we do our fractions strips. But we will just kind of do an exercise here of looking at how big fractions are with respect to each other. because we have that one hole. And every hole that we're going to make these fraction strips into is the same size. Okay, so I'm cutting up my fraction strips. So I've kept my one strip here, put a 1 on it, kept it apart there, and I can discard the other materials. Every fraction starts with the whole, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to cut up our strips so that they are strategically like the same, like to scale, okay? So that we can use them to compare, we can add, subtract, multiply, divide. So here's my one strip. And it's the same length as this other one that I'm going to pull from my pile. And I'm going to make this one my halves strip, my halves. How can we make this? This is 1, this is a half. How can we make them this exactly half? What do you guys think?
Fold it in half or cut it.
Yep, fold it in half and then cut it. Good. We will label the pieces 1/2. So after we fold it in half, we're going to cut it into 2 pieces that are the same size, because that's what a half means, right? A half is a unit fraction. Unit fractions say you take the whole, you cut into that number of pieces, and you get that one piece where if you were to iterate it or copy it 2 times, then you'll get back to the whole. Okay, so 1/2 means 1 piece where 2 copies of it make the whole. Oh, my scissors were bad there. Okay, so I have these 2 pieces. I'm going to write 1/2 on them, and I can do it like on both sides, so in case they flip around. Be easy to see them. Oops. Go ahead and label them. Okay, so both of my pieces say 1/2 on them now. Okay, so we'll put those in a set. The next one we're going to do is a 1/4. How can I make this next strip into pieces that are exactly 1/4?
Fold it in half and then fold it in half again.
Right. We can fold it in half, cut it, and then fold those halves in half and cut those. Okay, so a 1/4 is the same as a 1/2 of a half. Good. And I also want to label them. I don't get them mixed up with anything. So fold them, cut them, and label them. You know what 1/4 are? Math is all about looking for patterns as well. So we've done a 1 whole, we've done a 1/2, we've done a 1/4. I'll give you guys a guess at to which next one we're going to do. What do you guys think?
A 1/3.
1/3? Good. Well, we'll do that one. The folding technique is a little bit different for a 1/3. But we're going to do like the halves kind of folding. So a 1/3.
An 1/8.
Do that. Yes, an 1/8. And then after our 1/8, we'll do a 1/3. So good job on both of those. So go ahead and make your 1/8 by taking your 4ths. Sorry, make 4ths, make 1/2, then 4ths, then you can fold it into 8ths. You kind of look, cutting them like that, folding it in 1/2 again, and cut them all. So I have all my 8ths here. Put my labels on. And 8th is going to be the smallest that we'll get for this lesson, I think. But I think I want you to make 12ths after class. So make some 12ths after class. Because they can come in handy too. But we will figure out how to do that. That's a little bit different from 8ths. So I'm cutting and I'm labeling them now. All right. So the next one is a third. How can I get to be a third? How can I make my paper a third?
You'd fold the paper like if you were putting it into an envelope. Like
Good.
fold one side and like halfway and then the other one halfway. Does that make sense?
Yes. What people have done with, like say you were folding for an event or something, stuffing envelopes, or you guys have done that before, maybe you've mailed a letter. Maybe you haven't because you just do email or something. It's called trifold. So yeah, you take it, you gotta fold them so you can fold it down one end, one way. Okay, and you have to just most of the way here. And you make sure that this one folds down all the way to the end of the other fold. Okay. So we're folding it down part way here. And then I'm gonna fold the top all the way down to the end here. You gotta kind of like make it even, so it's exactly a third. It's a little bit tricky, but I think you guys can do it. So you make them overlap as best you can. Now let's say that after this exercise, you can see you'd want to make like a really nice one or a nicer one. You can print one out from online. You can make it out of cardstock if you want. Okay. But this activity is just kind of help look for patterns. We are finding patterns, again to reiterate, in the halving of halves with 4ths and 8ths. Okay? So 4ths and 8ths are halving of halves. After the thirds, what do you guys think that we're going to do?
A 6th?
6. Good job. It's not a very effective question. It's fishing for something, but you guys got it. Take your thirds, make more thirds. Take your last strip. You want to make it into 6ths. Okay. So we have a pile of halves, 4ths, 8ths, 3rds, and 6ths. Okay, so you make your thirds again for the 6th. You like fold them like this, do a trifold. And then once you have those pieces, you cut each of those pieces in half.
I missed it. What one were we doing now?
After the thirds, did you get thirds?
Yeah, I got the 8th.
Okay, after thirds, we're doing 6ths.
Okay.
You take your thirds, take your last strip and do thirds, and then you'll fold those thirds in half and then make a cut. So I have my thirds here, folding them in half, and make a cut there. Then I'll label them 6ths. The main part of today's lesson is going to be fractions on a number line. And we've also created our fraction kits. And we found some patterns with fractions as they got smaller. We want to, again, compare sizes of fractions. Which one is bigger eighths or sixths, for example. So I pose that question to you guys now, which is bigger, eighths or sixths?
Sixths.
Okay. Now we have these models that we've made. So here's my eighth, and here's my sixth. And you can see that the sixth is longer. Now my strips aren't the same size tall-wise, but for length, from left to right horizontally, they're pretty exact on their sizes. We want students to have experiences where they can look at an object, see, okay, eighths are smaller. Okay. I can put all my eighths in a row, and I can see that there are more pieces there than sixths. So I have my whole divided up into more pieces. That means they're smaller. And you want them to see that. Because when we compare fractions and do more ordering, more comparing, because you guys are working on that too for homework, you'll need to have our fraction sense there. If I have 7/8, 5/6, you can compare the size of those fractions by lining up 5 of your 6ths and 7 of your 8ths and seeing that the 8ths are smaller, so they're going to be a little bit away from the whole. Here, let me go ahead and see if I can show you that. So I'm going to line up, compare 5/6 and 7/8. Line those up. Because what you want to do is you want them to have experiences with the numbers as a piece, as a size and piece, so that when you take away, you give them like some examples of with just numbers, they'll have in their mind something that they can refer to in their mind. And so what we're doing, I'm gonna get my camera, show you what I got down here. Okay, so I have my whole, and I lined up 5/6 right here and 7/8 here. Those are smaller pieces, and so I have one away from the whole, so one away from this edge length. Okay. And that means that since the pieces are bigger for 6, I'm further away from my edge than I am for the 8s because they're just one away from the whole. We can compare those together. All right, so we have our fraction kits. We've seen some patterns. We know that 6ths are half of thirds, 8ths are half of fourths, and fourths are halves of halves. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section. We want to take our 2 notebook papers, and we're going to do fractions on a numbered line. So what you have your notebook papers here. You also have some tape. So let's go ahead and put our fraction kit aside. We'll use that in later lessons. That's all we're going to use it for this lesson. You can use it in the homework if you need as a manipulative, something concrete. I'm taking my 2 notebook papers and I'm going to put them horizontally. I'm going to tape them together. Okay? Because our fraction line is going to be long. We want to spread things out a little bit so that we can see the relationships on a number line of halves and thirds and so on. So one long notebook paper. I want to cut off the bottom so that I can use it as a strip. I'm going to cut off the bottom, just the bottom a little bit as a strip. My notebook paper has a red line. So I'm going to cut off my red line here. Okay, so I have a strip here now. Make sure that's all taped together. Now with this strip, I don't want it like, this is gonna be my whole, okay, my one. But I don't want it all the way across. I wanna be able to do some numbers and fractions that are greater than 1. I'm gonna cut off part of my strip so that my 1 is about 1.5 units along here. So I'll just cut off some of it. So here I cut off this much. Okay, you just cut off some of it. So you have a strip like this. And we discard this smaller part. Is everybody good so far? We have our long paper here. What we want to do with it is we want to draw a number line that's halfway down the paper. So if you can find some sort of straight edge, that would be helpful, but you can just do it freehand if you want. Just one number line. You want to be more exact, you can use a straight edge like a ruler or book edge. And you want to mark 0. I'm just drawing it like halfway down my paper. And I'm drawing arrows on it, and I'm going to mark 0. Okay, like this. Okay, so I drew it like halfway down my paper. It goes all the way across. In the end, it's a big number line. Because we're going to divide up into parts. I'm taking my strip and I'm going to put it up against 0 and mark off 1. And if I have more, if you cut yours off in a certain way, you can probably mark off 2 if you want. Let's just go at least to 1 and a little bit more. Okay, this, we mark it off here. This will be my 1. Now let me do it a little bit shorter. Oops. Okay. So what I have now is this. I've marked off 1 because it goes from, this is my 0, goes all the way, almost all the way through my paper. So there's my 1. Okay, so hopefully you guys have that. So let's see, I do want to kind of move on. Does everybody have, how do you get like the thumbs up on your screen? Anybody know how to do that? Some people do thumbs up. Yeah, so Michaela's got it. How do you do that, Michaela?
It's at the bottom. It says reactions.
Okay, reactions. Oh, I have clap and thumbs up. Okay, so How long does the thumbs up last? Does it go off on its own?
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
It depends on where it's at. On I use an iPad and it says more. Like
Yeah.
you can click the 3 dots that say more,
Yeah,
and
so
then
you need
it's
to
underneath that.
find the 3
Like-
dots.
It's right by where you locate like your chat and stuff. And then there's a clap and a thumbs up.
Okay. I hope everybody, because I saw a lot of thumbs ups, so we'll go ahead and move on. Now what we need to do is we need to take our strip. This is my one strip that I cut off from the bottom. I need to mark off a half on mine, so I have 0, 1/2, 1, and 1.5 if you guys have that. So how am I going to do that with my strip?
Fold it in half.
Right. Similar to what we just done, fold it in half and put marks on your number line that distance. So it doesn't matter how tall my strip is or whatever, but I'm looking at just length right now. So I'm going to fold it, and then I unfolded it, or you can just keep it folded and mark off halves, as many halves as you have. So if you have one, just 1/2, go that far. Hopefully you have 1, 1.5. Maybe you can get to 1.5. And then write the fraction right under the tick mark. When we get to fourths, for example, we're going to show equivalent fractions under that. So I'll show you with the 2 halves that I have. And look, mine barely goes to 1.5, so that's good. Or 3 halves. Okay, so I drew an arbitrary distance on my number line, and it goes all the way to 3 halves. So here's starting at 0. I've marked off 1/2, kind of next to my tick mark. I marked off 1 and then put 2 halves under it because those are the same amount. And then my 3 halves is over here. All right, now we're going to do fourths. Kind of the same order as we did with the cut out our fraction kit. Take our half strip, I fold it in half this way. I'm going to fold that in half. Mark out all my fourths, as many as I can get to the end of my number line. We do simplify fractions, so we have simplest forms of them, like a half. So when I go up to, I'm going to do 1/4, and I'm going to iterate my thing. So I already have it landing on a half. I don't have to label that tick mark anymore. I just can put down 2/4 right under my half. And then I'll mark out 3/4. That one wasn't done yet. And then 1 is the same. That checks out. 1 and 1/4 makes 5/4. Okay. So I put 4/4 under my 1, 5/4 under my 1 and 1/4. And then it matches up with 3 halves again, which will be 6/4. Okay. So here's what I mean. So I have my 0, go along my number line. I kind of iterated the 1/4, meaning that I copied it to the 1/4 mark. It matched up with my second copy, second iteration to 1/2. So I just wrote down 2/4 under it. And then I went to 3/4. And then I went to 1. And I labeled the 1 as 4/4. So I put that under my 2 halves because they're all the same amount. And they're all the same distance. Fractions have the same, a lot of the same names for the same distance. Right? 5/4 there, and then 6/4 at the last. Let's label our 8ths. So I'm taking my strip folded into 4ths, and I'm going to put it into 8ths by folding it in half again. Label on your 8ths. They will coincide with some of your marks already. So write new marks in. And if you have a coinciding mark, just write the equivalent fraction in 8ths right under it. So my 1/4 became 2/8. 3/8. And 4/8 became the 1/2. And so you guys seeing patterns? We're iterating fractions. You can see equivalent fractions. I'm at 6/8 now, which coincide with my 3/4. 7/8, and then 1 was 8/8. Okay. With these patterns, you can kind of generate some rules, some things you notice. 9/8 after 1, 10/8, 11/8, and 12/8 combining 3 halves. One such pattern could be your 1. 1 is equal to all of those things. And notice that whatever number divided by itself gives you 1. And you can prove it using the mathematics, or you can use it like this number line, this fraction number line. So I labeled all my 8ths on there. Let's see. I'm going to open up my fraction strip again. What did we do after 8ths with the other one? We went to thirds. So let's do a trifold on this big fraction strip and do thirds. Let's label those. Okay, so hopefully you fold it in a certain way so that when you do 3 of them, they get up to the whole. Try and do the best you can with that. Because you want 3/3 to be a whole. That's our goal. Now these ones, the 8ths and the 4ths, were all nice and distances apart. Once I'm getting thirds in there, I'm gonna have like some funny looking distances. So make sure we can keep it straight here. Label my third there.
Dr. B, you said fold it in thirds and then fold it in half, right?
Oh no, just fold it in thirds. Mark your thirds out on your number line.
Okay.
And then fold it in half for 6. So if you want to go that far, you can.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Make sure that when you get to 1, you do 3/3. Yeah. And we do 4/3. Because once you start doing all these marks, you're going to get a lot of fractions on here. Once I got my thirds and my 6ths on. So I'm folding my thirds in half. When I get my 6ths going, they're going to coincide with some things that I've already written down that aren't even thirds. Maybe. Oh, they do. When I get to 3/6, I got to half. That's pretty cool. Now 5/6 is a new one that I'm going to write down. 6 and 1 got to 6/6. And then I can do 7/6. And 8/6 correspond with 4/3. And then my 9/6 corresponded with my 3 halves, and so on. Okay, so here's my 6. So my number line so far, the first fraction is 1/8, then 1/6, and so on. I'll put those marks there. I'm gonna hold up here for a little bit. All right, once we've done this question, we've figured out 6ths and 8ths and all of that. Where would be 1/5? Without folding up your strip into fifths, where would it be? So that's your question for this exercise.
It would be between the 4/1 and 6/1, right?
Between a 6th and a 4th?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it going to be right in the middle between those or not? Will it be closer to one or closer to the other? Okay. So first of all, why is it between those, and which will it be closer to one or the other, or just right in the middle? So we need to have some arguments, like a reasoning, to prove why it's true. Okay. So think of a reason. Where would 1/5 be? And which two fractions is it going to be between?
It would be between the 1/4 and 1/6 because 5 is between 4 and 6.
Okay. What does that 5 have to do with those denominators, though? You have good thoughts. Just kind of push it a little bit more. Why would it be between those two? Because 5 is between 4 and 6.
Because they go in backwards order. So like the bigger the number, the closer it is to 0. And the smaller the number, the farther away it is from 0.
Okay, great.
And they're in order.
Why is that true? Why is it that the bigger number is closer to 0 in the denominator?
Because there's more pieces.
Right. The wholes divide up into more pieces. And so if you only take one of those pieces, it's going to be smaller, the bigger the number of divisions there are, right? So what I've done is I kind of boxed here my unit fractions so that we can see how that progression's going. Progression by meaning 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/6, and 1/8. Okay. Well, our goal is we need to plot on here where 1/5 would be. Okay, hold on. I'm going to do these tick marks too, because we're going to do a tick mark for the 1/5. I'm going to bolden these with my purple pen so we can just focus on them. Okay, so here's 0 to 1. Notice that 1/2 is boxed. It's in the middle. 1/3 is now right here. 1/4, I'm compared to 0. 1/5, 1/6, and 1/8. What is happening as you progress, looking from 1/2 down towards 0? What is happening to all of those? So this is going to help us answer the question, is 1/5 exactly in between the middle of 1/6 and 1/4?
No, they get closer together.
Yeah, because you can see that as you get smaller, the fractions are getting closer together. Okay, so that way you can just kind of really get a really good guess on where 1/5 would be if you take that decreasing distances into account. I'm going to guess on mine. Taking the distance from 1/3 and 1/4 and kind of making it smaller. So is 1/5 going to be closer to 1/6 or 1/4?
1/4.
Okay, does everybody agree with that?
I was thinking it'd be closer to the 1/6.
Oh, why would that be? Why would it be closer to 1/4 or why would it be closer to 1/6?
Just because the gaps get closer the further you go and they get farther, you know. I'm trying to think of the words
No,
here.
this is good. Yeah, you're on the right track.
So if you're going the other way, then they're farther apart.
So I think it would be closer to the 1/6 because the way that like you don't divide it into like, you know, like with the 4th you can divide it in half. With the 3rd you divide it into 3s, and then so it would be like a 1/4 piece of the 6 added back, and so it's like, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know if this helps. So I'd like drew the distances between 1/2 and 1/8, 1/3 and 1/8, 1/4 and 1/8, and 1/6 and 1/8. You can see the differences in distances so that they can, so you can kind of see where 1/5 would be from 1/2 or from 1/8. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to think about it. Okay. So it would be closer to a 1/6 because the distances are gaps that are getting smaller and smaller. Okay. And they're kind of scrunching up towards the 8th. You can use that word. Okay. All right, so that's enough that we're gonna look at that. You can look at different relative distances from other numbers, other fractions, and find a pattern there. What we need to do is that in the last 4 minutes is to do a couple of homework problems. So you guys can have that. What they will do on the homework is that they will give you I'm going to share with my iPad. Okay, so Unit 2, Section 3, like homework examples. Example number 1. I'm going to give you a number line. I want to plot 1 on the number line. Okay. There's a number line that's 0. This one right here is 1/5. You put down 1/5 on your number line. You make it anywhere you want. And you got to show me where 1 is and tell me why that's where 1 is. Plotting means that you put a dot on the tick mark on the number line. And so whoever wants to share, they got an idea where how they could find where number 1 is. Can you share out? How would we know?
Just take that distance and every time put a dot for 5 times.
Okay. This distance, I'm going to go from 0 to 1/5. And try to make them the same, right? In order to help with these, here there's 2/5, 3/5, keep going, 4/5, and 5/5. Okay, the 5/5 is equal to 1, and that's where I'm going to put my dot. Okay. To help with these, you want to think about the meaning of 1/5. What does 1/5 mean?
It's one piece out of the 5 equal pieces.
Okay, we want to be careful of the phrasing out of.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you say like 10 pieces out of 7, it doesn't really
That's
make
right.
sense. So one piece, you're really close though. One piece where 5 copies of it make the whole. Okay, good. So notice that if I think about the meaning of the fraction, I can plot where 1 is. 5 parts that make up a whole. So I copied it 5 times. And where I ended with that 5th one, okay, is where my 1 is. What else could they ask you? On the lesson plan notes that I will upload, I have some more examples, but we're running out of time. What we're going to do with this example is yeah, we like have no time anymore. Okay. So I'm going to go a little bit over. If you need to go, that's fine. You can look at the lesson plans later. But if you have a few minutes, you want to hear some homework hints, that's good. So what is the better choice? Two-thirds or 3/4? For the location, mark A on the number line. Okay, on this following number line. You can do fifths again. And there's 1. Here's A. Now on the homework, it's hard to do this over without giving you a handout. It's hard to do this over Zoom. So I put A at 4/5. But A is going to be at a certain location. But we don't know where it is on the number line. So we're going to pretend that we don't know where A is here. And we're going to use some reasoning to show which one is closer, 2/3 or 3/4, to our 4/5. Okay. But on the homework, you'll have to, like, there won't be any lines or anything. All of these will be gone. And it'll be just like this, and there won't be any 1 there. You'll have to just say, use your own reasoning. Which one would be closer? If you know that that much is 1/5, which one is going to be closer, the 2/3 or the 3/4? Okay. So that's what you have to use. Any thoughts about how to find this one?
I've just looked at the number line we just created, and it's 2/3 and then 3/4 going up.
Okay, good. Which one would A be closer to?
3/4
Okay. And how do you know?
because of our number line. The order going from smallest to greatest.
Okay.
Because if you have 2 pieces out of 3, that 1 piece left is going to be bigger than if you have 3 pieces out of 4, because the more pieces you cut something into, the bigger each piece is going to be.
Okay. Be careful of your 3 out of 4. There's 3 pieces, each of which is a 4th. This is kind of what you want to try. So here's 1/5 here. You want to iterate 1/5. So those are good thoughts. Let me just go ahead and summarize those. Here. Okay, so you iterated the 5th to get to 1. So now you can compare. This is going to be 1 now. Okay, you can separate your line using the number line into 4ths. Let's say that our 4ths was good, so let me do 4ths in green. Okay, so that's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. This kind of reasoning is not precise, but it's going to be good enough for our homework. And then I'm going to do, the other choice was thirds. So let me do thirds in red. So I have a third will be just after a 4th, right? And 2/3 is just before 3/4. Okay, use your number line to help you. Okay, so now once I plot those down, and this according to the number line and according to what we said here, we can see that 3/4 is closer. Okay? So A would be closer to 3/4, or location would be 3/4 if it was exact. All right. Now the last thing they do is they convert decimals to fractions. Okay. What they will have you do on the homework is they will have you, let me go ahead and pull that out. They will have you do some calculations like division or anything like that. Just whatever you do is do the operation, and then you convert to decimals. If I have 0.3, how would I write that as a fraction? Does anybody know?
3/10.
Right. All you have to do is read the number like we've done before in Unit 1. 3/10, and you put it over 10. Let's do this one. 0.25. What is that one as a fraction?
1/4.
How'd you get that?
Well, it's 25 over 100, and then when you simplify it, 25 goes into 100 4 times.
Right. So we've talked about simplifying fractions already. On the homework, you'll need to write them as the decimals as fractions, and then you'll need to simplify. Okay, so 25.25 is 25 hundredths. So just write 25 over 100 there. And you get 1/4. What about this one?
$625,000.
Good, 625 thousandths. Okay. So when we did the 25 hundredths, we divided by 25 on the numerator and denominator. Let's say we know that that one can be simplified. So what number should we try to divide by? Because the numbers are big, so let's do a piece little by little.
5.
Okay, they're both divisible by 5 because 5 goes into any number that ends with 5 or 0, right? Okay, so when we divide those by 5, what do we get? Well, 5 into 6 goes once, 12, 5 into 12 goes twice, and then you get 25 left over, 125. 5 into 1,000 is 200. Okay, now what am I going to do?
Divide by 5 again.
Good. Okay, try small numbers like 5, 3, and so on. You can do this on your side, but I give you permission to use a calculator on this, just this homework section problem. You can, to simplify, help you do that easier since we're not doing division quite yet. So when we divide that one by 5, we get 25. Divided by 200 divided by 5 is what?
21 over 40.
Good. Divide that
It
by,
should be 21, not 25.
oh,
Because it's 12 and a 5.
well, the 5 and the 12, 5 into 12 goes 2 times with 2 left over. You can even think about money too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to divide this 25 by 5 again, and this 40 divided by 5. And what I have is 5 over 8. Okay, so that's 5/8. Any questions on those ones? Okay, converting decimals to fractions is not too bad at all. Just read the number, put it over that many zeros. You got it. These are decimals that terminate, by the way. Next class, we're going to talk about how to convert fractions to decimals. But right now, this is our lesson. Any other questions before we sign off? So you can definitely work on the homework. Let me know if there's any other questions by email or by Zoom chat or appointment request.
Dr. B, if it's okay, I wanted to ask you after class something about the exam.
Okay, that'd be fine. Anybody else?